Now some news from West Asia. Two sworn enemies are holding talks, secret ones. The United States and Iran. Reports say their officials met in Oman last month. They held indirect talks, meaning they were not face-to-face. Oman was ferrying the messages between both sides. But what was the discussion about? The Iran nuclear deal. Joe Biden promised to revive it after becoming president. He tried for close to 1 year, but he failed miserably. So now he's trying again. He's up for re-election next year. He's also under pressure from the Israelis. They are threatening to strike Iran unless the nuclear program is paused. So what does Joe Biden do? Try to secure an informal deal, sort of like a mini agreement. Now the semantics are important here. A formal nuclear deal will have to be ratified by the US Congress. And right now that looks unlikely. American lawmakers do not want to make any concessions to Iran. They're also accusing Tehran of arming Russia. So Congress is no-go, which is why the White House is playing it safe. They're talking about, quote-unquote, an understanding or an informal deal, something that won't need Congress approval. Listen to this spokesperson of the State Department.
We continue to use diplomatic engagements to pursue all of these goals in full coordination with our allies and partners. But as I said yesterday, with respect to Iran's nuclear program, there is no deal. The reports that there are a deal or some agreement or some other description, however you want to describe it, are not true. Sorry to retread ground.
Pretty vehement, almost as if by design, but multiple reports suggest otherwise. They quote US and Iranian officials confirming that a deal is indeed in the works. Some in Tehran are calling it a political ceasefire. So what's in it for both sides? Well, the US is hoping that Iran will pause uranium enrichment. 90% is weapons-grade uranium. Iran is at 60%. The informal deal could keep it there at 60%. Iran may also release American citizens detained in the country, and Biden would love that before elections. Him at the tarmac receiving Americans released from Iran. Perfect campaign photo. The deal could also see Iran stopping its attacks on US contractors in Syria. And what do they get in return? The Iranians. Broadly speaking, they're asking for three things: sanctions relief to sell oil, unlocking of frozen assets, and stopping the seizure of their oil tankers. And some of this, by the way, is already happening. Last week, Iraq paid $2.7 billion to Iran. Now, Baghdad owed this money for buying gas and electricity. The purchases are old, but the payment came only last week. Why is that? Because sanctions were preventing Iraq from paying Iran. Last week, the Americans waived some of it, so Baghdad could finally pay up. Similar payments were also held up in South Korea, or are held up in South Korea. Seoul owes about $7 billion to Iran, and that too is now on the table. But how close are we to securing this deal? Some Israeli officials called it imminent, but we've heard that before. In 2021, there was a lot of chatter about the nuclear deal. European officials kept saying it was only days away. In the end, nothing happened. This time, President Biden faces even more challenges. The chairman of the US Foreign Affairs Committee has written to him. He says any agreement must be submitted to the Congress, even informal ones. So chances are there could be a legal showdown. And Iran is wary of that, because what's happening now is like a déjà vu. In 2015, Iran placed their trust on the White House. They signed the nuclear deal. The next year, another president came to office and he walked out of the deal. Now there is another attempt, and just like 2015, this is an election year in America. And who is likely to challenge Joe Biden? The same president who walked out of the deal, Donald Trump. More than enough reason to be concerned. But for Biden, even an informal deal is big. He's losing most of his allies in West Asia. And Israel is among the few remaining. If they feel that the US is not doing enough, they could go rogue, maybe even strike Iran themselves. So Joe Biden needs to get this right, because who knows, maybe he won't have a chance after next year.